Thank you. The clerk will call the roll.
President Norris? Here. Vice President Young?
Here.
Secretary Spikers?
Here.
Commissioner Herron?
Here.
Commissioner Pollard?
Here.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to have us add other to the bottom of the agenda. We've done that sometimes in the past, we may not use it, but it's always good to have it there.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? It passes. Okay, next item of business is the approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2016. Are there any changes or corrections to these minutes?
I have a point of order, Madam Chair, and I address it to the parliamentarian, if I may. And that is, as I understand Robert's, minutes are supposed to record only actions taken, not the discussion leading to the actions. Is that correct?
Robert strongly recommends that minutes record actions and not discussion. And it is certainly my view as a parliamentarian that that is desirable. It is not an absolute requirement.
Okay, may I ask a further question? When you say it's not an absolute requirement, if Robert's rule says that the discussion should not be, as I recall, it states clearly that the discussion should not be part of the minutes. Is that what we should follow or not?
In my view, yes, you should follow that unless you pass a special rule of order, which gives you an alternate approach.
Thank you.
With that, I'll move to approve the minutes.
All those in favor?
Wait, discussion?
Oh, we just had discussion.
No.
Okay, is there any discussion about the minutes?
Yeah, I have a question about one of the comments. Mr. Scowcroft was held for 3 minutes in contrast to his previous comments before the board that went on for like 7 to 10 minutes. But at the end of 3 minutes, and he was cut off, he then submitted to the board the balance of his statement, and it's included in the minutes. The way I've seen this done elsewhere, such as in the Congress and so forth, is the only thing that's recorded in the minutes is what occurred during the meeting. And then if a party wishes to submit or to revise and extend, that is done, but it's not made part of the minutes. It's made part of the record as a communication. I think that this 2-page tone here from Mr. Scowcroft is improper, and perhaps the parliamentarian could comment.
The jurisdictions have wide latitude in how much detail they wish to include about public comment, ranging all the way from the simple statement that public comment was held, to listing of the names who offered comment, to contents of the comments. And I agree that including a written transcript in addition to what is said is undesirable and unusual. It would be in order if the member chose to move to have the minutes shortened so that they reflect only what was actually stated. And obviously that's a second and subject to a majority vote.
I move, Madam Chair, if it's proper to do that at this point, or move an amendment to the minutes, how would that be done?
It's a correction. You move the minutes to be
I
corrected.
move a correction to the minutes, and that is that what was stated in the meeting should be part of the minutes, and the rest of it could be a communication to the chair or the board, but limit what is put in the minutes to what was actually said at the meeting.
Is there a second to that? A second. Discussion? and we will vote. All those in favor of the proposed amendment by Commissioner Pollard, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I'll say no. I agree. So it does not pass.
Point of clarification, does this mean that in the future, anyone who speaks in the public comment section can also have their comments included in the minutes?
I think we'll go with what happens unless we want to change how that happens. So if in the future you want to bring to the board a decision of how you'd like to see it.
I'm just asking what the policy of the board would be. You're setting policy here anyway.
Well, I don't have anything written.
If I could, can I just add some clarification?
Yeah.
The policy of the board has been inconsistent on this. For a number of years, Commissioner Pollard wanted to have verbatim transcripts of all public comments, and now he seems to be taking a 180. And so I think what would be good for the board to do.
I object to that. It's not correct.
I think what the board would be good for the board to do is amongst yourselves, it's decide what the policy should be with respect to written comments or public comments, and so that there's some clarity going forward.
I think that's reasonable, and I think it also needs to be something that's in our bylaws that I don't think our bylaws address.
Correct.
So,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
could you make a note to us that we need to look at that? I will remember. I may forget.
Again, call for the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those
No.
opposed? Emma, did you vote? I vote. Yes or no?
I said yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have communications, and I don't believe I have any communications. Okay. Our acting CEO, Tom Parker, do you have some communications you'd like to share?
I do, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that Commissioner Norris and I are, with the help of Val, are working on a new date for our strategic planning session. In advance of that, Commissioner Norris and I will be meeting with Ben Lindenkugel's. Ben, I felt, did a good job of facilitating the session for us, and we would like to meet with him again to talk about a subsequent session and the goals and the process for achieving that. So more to come for your calendars as we continue our process on strategic planning. Since my appointment as the interim CEO and superintendent, we've made a few changes that I want to talk about with respect to the organization structure and reporting relationships. CEO direct reports, those who reported directly to the CEO, are now reporting to me. That includes Steve Daniel, Dr. Kim Whitcomb, Jay Rodney, and Jill Green. Other direct reports to the CEO was Scott Mohavik, our Director of Facilities, and I've asked that Steve Daniel serve as the manager for facilities, and so Scott Mohavik is now reporting to Steve Daniel. I also made a couple other changes in order to adjust the number of direct reports coming to me. So swing bed intake, that is Kathy Pettit, and our social work department are now reporting directly to Rachel Weber, who is our director of nursing. Moving on, we have let our landlord office know that we are not continuing the lease of that space, and so there are some moves that we're working on in order to have everybody who has been housed at the district office moved into spaces in the hospital. It was a 90-day requirement that we provide that notice, but we went ahead and did so ahead of the 90 days to give our landlord plenty of time in order to find another tenant. We've been making some plans at the hospital, moving some people around. As you can imagine, there's some domino effect, and and we're putting some people into shared office spaces, but the net of it all is that we'll be able to get everybody from the district office housed into the hospital one way or another. And I look forward to being able to have all the executive team in one space along with Val for really that efficiency that comes from the informal communication by being co-located. We have canceled our membership with TPC. I have proposed to the other hospital CEOs of the collaborative of hospitals that they consider agreements with us for the provision of legal services from Jay Rodney. I did that at the last board meeting of the collaborative of the hospitals, and all the CEOs in attendance received that with a lot of positive response. And so Jay is working on a contract that would serve as a template for those hospitals to be able to access time from Jay. I had a meeting with our then director of the foundation, Eric Kaltenbacher, to talk about the philosophy of the relationship between the foundation and the hospital. And I want to let you know a couple of things that I had communicated to him, and have subsequently had a good discussion with Jim Schaefer, who is the chair of the board of the foundation. First of all, with respect to the gift shop, that the net proceeds from the gift shop initially be used to repay the hospital its capital investment. After that capital investment has been repaid, then the net proceeds of the gift shop can be used to grow funds in the foundation ready for the hospital to make grant requests for special projects. But the first order of business for the gift shop should be to pay back the capital investment.
Tom, can you remind us what that capital investment was?
The Board of Commissioners approved up to $50,000. It's going to come in for less than that. I don't have that figure in front of me today, but it is coming in for less than that amount. And once we have that, we'll be providing a report back to the board of what the total cost was. But I can guarantee you we'll not get close to what the board approved for that project. The second point of philosophy is that the foundation needs to have a goal of being net cash flow positive to the hospital. That's the role of a foundation in my mind. And that would include being able to cover the operating costs for the foundation, which includes the salary for the director. And lastly, that foundation projects are done through a grant requesting process that's integrated with the strategic planning and budgeting for the hospital, such that we go through a strategic planning process. We decide what the needs are for the hospital. We put together budgets for that. Sometimes those budgets include capital projects that we need to get done. And then we go to the foundation and we find out which of those projects that are needed by the hospital sparks interest in the foundation board in order for them to be able to launch campaigns or to allocate funds out of existing resources to support those capital projects. Subsequent to my meeting with Eric in that week, that was a couple weeks back, Eric decided that he was going to no longer serve as our foundation director and gave me a 2-week notice. Today was Eric's last day. Subsequent to that, I asked Jill Green if she would include in her set of duties the responsibility of supporting of the foundation, and I communicated that to Jim Schaefer, and he has communicated that back to the board. I have yet to hear from him on how the board has dealt with that, but he indicated to me that that would likely be very positively received. I want to give an update on the adult family home. We're going to be pursuing an alternative strategy to achieving some of our goals around discharge of patients who have a very long length of stay. To date, we have already met our goal with respect to the number of Medicare days in our budget. This is mostly due to the extremely high census that we've had, which has been over budget. We budgeted for a census of 19.9 on average, schools call it 20, and we've been running a census in the 23 to 25 range. And those are Medicare days that we didn't expect to have in the budget, and we are having them. Also, we have recently seen the discharge of one of our patients who has had a very long length of stay. And we've seen the impact that good work from guardianship appointed to help patients can have on helping patients to be able to find that next venue. And so we're going to continue to pursue that avenue of good guardianships, working closely with our social work program, and also the C service that Dr. Wyckoff and the clinical team has launched, which is a service provided to our patients once they have achieved their goals and plateaued clinically, both in terms of their nursing needs and their rehab needs. And those patients transition to a lower level of care, and it really is anticipatory to and preparing them for discharge from the hospital to a venue that is very much aligned with the kind of services we provide in the new C service. That also has the effect of helping them prepare for and get their minds set for discharge. So these are some of the tools that we're using right now. As such, I have put on pause the development of an adult family home, including the lease option on adult family home. And our coordinator, I spoke with her. It's actually serendipitous, good timing, because it was a position elimination resulting in a layoff. Her name, well, I'll keep that out, but she was actually very appreciative of the work that she had been able to do for us, and it was okay timing for her. So that position was eliminated, and that was a layoff. The last thing I'd like to propose here tonight is that we don't have anything detailed yet. We're working on this with IT, but providing the commission with IT resources to help you provide a real clear line of demarcation between your personal computer use and email, and or your business computer use and email from the work that you do with us. And so I've asked Bryce, our director of IT, to come up with a recommendation with respect to the hardware and software and potentially email addresses and a domain that would allow you to be able to conduct your commissioner business totally independent of everything else and provide you that protection. I wanted you to know, have a heads up that we're working on that. And that concludes my report. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to piggyback on Tom's last information on our computers. I had sent an email to the city before Ann came about doing the parliamentary class with the city of Snoqualmie. And the gal that led it, she contacted me about the fact that I was using my personal email and indicated that the city of Snoqualmie has had open records requests that are huge. And she emphasized huge and many. So we are in that same position. And I don't care to give up my computer to anybody because I've got a whole bunch of hospital district stuff on it. So I brought it up to the administration, and they have quickly come on board to say, yeah, we need to fix this. And not at the commissioner's expense, but at the district's expense, so that we separate our private lives from what we do as commissioners here. So that's just a little bit of that background for why that's happened. Thank you, Tom.
Question for Tom?
Yes.
What was TBC you mentioned, the acronym?
I'm sorry, that's the Tournament Players Club. That's the golf.
The golf course.
Golf course, correct.
Okay. Good. Is there a possibility that one way to solve this problem with the long stay in our swim med program, besides the adult family home, which we consider, and now apparently that's more of an is establishing home health care, whereby people could be returned to their home with support and assistance. It would serve the same purpose as an adult family home. There's a great need in the valley for home health care, and that might actually benefit the hospital's operations.
Commissioner Powell, would you keep that question open for us as we go into the strategic planning session? Programmatic ideas, I think, would be great for that session, and I think that that's where we could provide. I appreciate you saying that because it gives us a chance to think through the implications of that ahead of the strategic planning session. I think that'd be a great part of the discussion.
Final question. As long as I've been around, I haven't heard really a report from the foundation on what they've done for the hospital district. I know they've done some things, but wouldn't it be good to have like an annual report from the foundation as to what they have done in support of the hospital?
Thank you for that suggestion. I will pass it on. I agree. They bear our name, and it'd be good to have them and us feel more integrated through that means. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Then we'll move on. It's time for committee reports. Finance committee is next. Commissioner Spikers.
Thank you. Most of everything that Tom talked about was in finance, so I'm just going to breeze through the good things that have been happening. We're $124,000 for the year ahead of our budget and our plan for being on balanced this year. So that's a good thing. And we're up in endoscopy, 7%, rehab, 18%. We are down on the emergency department, 9%. We are down on our outpatient is still lagging. There are some articulable circumstances that involve coagulation and vegetables. I'll just say that. They're actually things that are sort of out of our control at this time, but we're going to continue to look at that because that is something that I really think that's going to help the hospital if we're ever going to go anywhere. We have to have a solid performance in the outpatient services. So we're going to continue to look at that. One of the things that you might have looked at if you saw a packet is there is a cash dropped. Well, how did the cash drop this month? Where did it go? We made money. Well, we are taking advantage of something that I've been requesting for a couple of years of fast payment and getting things tweaked. The people that will accept fast payments for a reduced amount, we're doing now. We're not paying people late and incurring finance charges. So every little bit, we don't have a lot of money to work with, so every little bit counts. You know, even if it's $50 here or $500 there or $1,000, all adds up. And we are tweaking the payment schedule. We paid a lot of vendors ahead of time to take advantage of cheaper costs. So this month you'll see that. It'll go back up, the cash will go back up next month. But that's what happened. I wanted to explain that very articulately. So anyway, other than that, I don't have much to report. We're doing very well. So ahead of what we projected. I hope we continue, and we'll keep looking at the weak points. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead. You had one yourself.
No, go ahead.
Well, there was a case where there was an improper charge made on a hospital credit card.
That's right. I forgot to talk. We by law have to report everything that is potentially fraud or improper spending. I raised this issue the last board. I had looked at some credit card statements, and there was some spending that was really, really suspect in my mind. I thought that some of the spending was personal expenses. And I substantiated that by looking at the actual credit card bill on Mr. McCollum's credit card. There's some things that have been explained that might be able to explain it. There's also some explanations in the file. By law, we have to report it to our accountant or our Moss Adams. And rather than doing a full accounting of everything for $15,000, I recommended that we do Moss Adams do a random audit of the credit card expenses related to personal and travel expenses. If something comes up that is going to point to further issues or down the line, I suspect that the state auditor will also then audit the next time around for this year and look at those expenses to see if they indeed cross any thresholds that we need to be concerned about. We have a duty to report any suspicious expenditures made that might not have been in the best public interest, and that was what was done under my own investigation a couple of months ago when I raised that. And as stewards of our hospital district, we have to, by law, let the proper authorities know and conduct our own investigation to find out.
Question, Robert. I think it's great that you caught that. I believe it was sometime after the fact, the expenditure.
Yes. Yes.
And I guess my question is, we get a really nice printout from Steve Daniel, our Chief Financial Officer, every once a month. But in addition, we also get a printout of all expenditures since the last reporting period, so for the last month. And what I'm wondering is, do we look at those closely enough to have maybe prevented that from going through in the first place?
Good question.
If we have, are we looking at those monthly expenditures as well as the nice boilerplate that we get from Steve?
It's actually not boilerplate. All vendor warrants are looked at. I have raised consistent issues with each and every month that we've gone through, even with the smallest of finance charges. You can ask Steve about that. I'm on his case about $3.23. Why are we incurring a finance charge? Can't we just pay it on time? The warrants, unfortunately, don't itemize our credit card statements. We have one warrant, one check to the credit card company, and I went further. I went into and asked for 6 months of credit card receipts from all of our credit cards, and I found a few that appeared to be personal expenses. And I don't know what has been said, what was going on, and why they were made. We'll be investigating that.
Thank you.
I have a question. Once it's substantiated, where do we go from there?
I'm not sure what we do. We would have to include that in any kind of audit. We'd have to disclose that to the state auditor, and then the state auditor then would probably have that on our annual audit as to if it was something unintentional, but maybe not quite. They're probably going to put. Go ahead, Steve. You want to say something?
Yeah. What will happen is Moss Adams, our CPA firm.
Steve, do you need to be up at the mic?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Steve Daniels, our CFO.
Moss Adams, our CPA firm, because this comment was made in the minutes of a meeting, will look at those expenditures. Moss Adams has people who are trained in forensic accounting, and they will make the report as to whether there were any improper expenditures. So that will determine the action going forward. You will most likely have to make a report to the state auditor's office, but they will do something. So I don't.
Well, and also, if I could just clarify, when you're talking about fraud, there's both civil and criminal fraud. If there are any, if upon the audit there's any evidence of criminal fraud, that would be referred over to a local prosecuting authority. Civil fraud is a different matter. Quite honestly, I've looked, based on my investigation, I don't see evidence of either civil or criminal fraud, quite honestly. There might have been some expenditures that may have not been prudent, but in my view, there has not been evidence of civil or criminal fraud. You know, civil fraud goes to personal inurement, and there have been no personal use of the credit card other than business lunches, which, again, I think per policy, those are permissible. But the Moss Adams will have the audit, the forensic audit during its normal auditing process, and we'll let them make their recommendation.
Well, the reason why these matters were raised is because they were consistent lunches that used public expenditures, and that you're saying they may not have been prudent. I don't think that this board would have authorized that, and that's why they were raised, and it was a continual process, as I recall, looking at the credit card statement. So, prudent or not, fraudulent or not, it's something that is now brought up to public light to be transparent.
Exactly.
And also to maybe think about a solid policy, or at least get the idea that, consistent lunches on the public dime is not something that we really want to see out there to the public perception.
Okay, it's time for us to move things along.
Point of information to Jay Rodney. Is there a dollar threshold regarding whether there'll be any action on possible fraudulent claims? I mean, certainly nobody's worried about $5, but maybe there's a dollar threshold or this kind of thing.
That's a great question. And if you remember back in September, October, the board limited CEO discretionary spending authority to $5,000. Obviously, I don't think the lunches rise to that threshold. If that's the inquiry that needs to be addressed. But I certainly think that it would be prudent for the board to again adopt a tighter policy as to when lunches that are reimbursed by the district are appropriate. I know City of Snoqualmie probably has a policy, and North Bend has a policy. Their city staff certainly attend lunches frequently out in town. Maybe we can get a copy of those two cities' policies for review.
So, but as
I'd
far
like
as the
to
state
remind
is
the
concerned,
board-
as far as the state is
excuse me.
concerned, there is no threshold.
Excuse me. I would like to remind the board that points of information need to be addressed to the chair.
Point of information, question, Mr. Rodney, and that is,
It's
is
the
there-
questions
is-
to the president. You need to question.
Point of information to the president. And would you
Yes.
please ask Mr. Rodney if there is a state threshold, dollar threshold for filing fraudulent claims?
Could you give us that number?
So under the state's conflict of interest laws, a $50 personal benefit is the threshold. So if there is a personal benefit of in excess of $50, then that is questionable.
Thank you, Jay.
Is there any other questions? I moved the warrants at this time.
Thank you.
Yes, seconded.
Aye.
Is there any discussion?
Discussion, I'm going to vote against the warrants because I feel that one or more senior executives are being paid too much. We're $100 million in the hole, and therefore I will be voting against the warrants. If those could be isolated out, I'd vote for supporting the warrants for the rest of the staff.
Is there any other discussion? We will now take a vote. All those in favor of approving the warrants, payroll, and payroll taxes for February 2016, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it, and the motion passes. with Commissioner Pollard voting no. Okay, next we have the order of business is a report from the medical committee, who will report.
Okay, I'm good. Tom has already addressed half of the medical committee report. But we'll go. The employee satisfaction culture patient safety survey in planning for administration next quarter. I mean, it'll be started. It's a new plan that takes into account actual culture of patient safety. Okay, and we've budgeted for 19.9 patients, and on March 15th, we had 24.1 occupancy. The launch of the inpatient dialysis services for swing-bed patients is still on track for mid-April, and reserving an inpatient bed for EDUs has resulted in a tripling of inpatient days in the 30 days following the decision compared to the 30 days prior. We'll continue to measure for better insight to long-term effect and confirm not a spurious and related experience. All right. In the emergency room, they are launching Grand Rounds, which is collaborative learning from shared patients with local EMS services. That's going very well. The imaging has got their new digital image storage pack system complete. And in the clinics, the director of clinic operations, an offer is pending background check for filling that position. Okay, one last thing. The Washington State Link for Health discussed the repository for medical episode of care summaries for exchange between participants in an ongoing patient care across disparate hospitals and clinics, mandatory as of January 2017 for anyone participating with the Washington Healthcare Authority plan.
Is there any discussion or any questions?
Question. The director of clinic operations, is there an incumbent or is this a new position?
It's a new position.
Has this been approved by the board as a new position?
We don't approve positions. The only position we have any control over is the CEO.
My understanding is that with the establishment of a new position, that's a policy issue.
No,
No.
not at all.
Okay, question, non-skilled swing service. What tell us about that?
No, Dr. Ward, no.
Non-skilled service is the service that Tom was including in his opening remarks, which is otherwise referred to as the C service, and it's the service that takes care of patients who have extended their skilled stay.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
So it's the non-skilled service is the patient that Tom spoke about in his opening remarks, and that is the service for the patients who have extended their skilled stay in the swing bed program and are now transitioning into a service level that is consistent with extended care facility.
While remaining in the hospital?
Yes, because they were unable to find a place for them to transition to.
So that's a special provision where if you can't find a place, you gotta keep them, essentially.
That's correct.
Because they're not qualified for skilled services, and therefore can we even bill Medicare for skilled services?
Most of these folks are already on Medicaid.
Medicaid.
So this are the group of patients that we've been having the ongoing conversation around the need for consideration of an adult family home or some other solution for a discharge plan for them.
Okay,
Exactly.
I have more questions for the medical committee, if you might want to just stay there, and that is, I thought we were a trauma center.
Okay, wait. Does anybody else have a question? Anybody else with more? Okay, you may proceed.
I thought we were a level 4 trauma center, or that's the lowest level. We are not a trauma center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why not?
The lowest level of trauma is a trauma level 5. We function at a trauma level 4, but we do not have a designation, and it's not because we haven't desired it. It's because the King County Trauma Council, the Central Regional Trauma Council, you can only get a designation when they open up to receive designations, and they have not opened up for years.
Thank you, because I noticed that other hospital districts and hospitals are designated as level 4 trauma centers. Okay, let's see if anybody else has a question. I have another.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
I noticed that we don't submit to health grades, and therefore we don't get the 1, 2, 3 star or whatever ratings that some hospitals get. Is there any reason why we don't submit to health grades?
So there's 2 different star ratings. So one is for nursing homes, the 5-star system, and we are not eligible to report because you must be a nursing home to participate in that. The CMS grades, they are just getting that started, and historically we have not been a participant because you had to have a certain number of patients, certain number of patient days and submissions to qualify. They're in the process though of revising that, so we anticipate we'll soon be seeing our star ratings.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Cup, are you going to?
Sorry, are you asking a question?
I am. Are we ready for physician credentialing?
Yeah.
I have a question about the report first before we move to the next item.
Okay.
What?
And that is, apparently we are considered a non-accredited hospital. And I realize there are reasons why you may or may not want to be accredited. But is that correct? We are a non-accredited hospital.
I'm not sure where.
The Joint Commission on Accreditation.
I'm not sure where on the report you're referring to.
No, it's a question for the committee. Since we aren't able to come.
Oh, okay. You wanna rephrase that, Commissioner Pollard, so that it.
Basically, I'm asking a point of information here. Are we an accredited hospital? If not, why not?
Yeah, that isn't relevant to the report right now. I think that's something if you'd like to find out later. It's not listed here in the report. It's not something that we're talking about right now. We're going over the minutes of the meeting.
This is an opportunity, though, to interface with the medical committee because we're not allowed to attend their meetings. So it seems to me that questions like that are appropriate.
Well, I guess the chair gets to make the decision, ruling on that, whether it is appropriate at this time to ask that question. Anna, did you?
Yeah, as a member of the committee, I can bring your question to the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. All right, credentialing.
Right. On March 28th, the Medical Executive Committee met and entertained the following applications for medical staff privileges. We had 4 applications for initial credentialing under provisional status. They're listed here for you. Dr. Pam Teach in nephrology and 3 teleradiologists, Dr. Krishnanathan, Dr. Crow, and Dr. Sperling. They all had no issues whatsoever in their application, and a recommendation is made for approval of their credentialing applications. There are 2 provisional staff members who are ready to transition to courtesy status. Dr. Conley and Dr. Kabu, these are both teleradiologists, and again, no issues have emerged in their 6-month provisional time, so no issues with recommending transition of them on into courtesy staff privileges. We had several re-credentialing actions. 4 of those are in our active staff members. 3 of them are from the emergency department, Drs. Anderson, Halper, and Tom. And the 4th active staff member that is due for re-credentialing is Dr. Spiegel, a pediatrician. Again, all 4 of those applications and review of the care that they provided over the prior 2 years are without issue and recommendation for approval. We had 1 courtesy staff member who was due for re-credentialing and opted to remain at the courtesy staff privileging level, and that's Dr. Maria Chong, also teleradiology, and no issues, recommending approval. We did have a single resignation, and that's Dr. Blankenship from teleradiology, and she is leaving her employment with Grady as the reason for that.
Now we will vote to approve the current set of credentialing. Would any commissioner care to move approval as presented?
I move approval of the credentialing report.
We've got John as doing the first and Commissioner Pollard is doing the second. It is moved and seconded to approve the credentials. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will now take a vote. All those in favor of approving the medical credentials as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose were unanimous. Okay. All those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Credentialing are approved. Next item of business is Facilities Committee. Commissioner Pollard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met on March 21st in the East-West Conference Room of the hospital. Committee members were myself and Commissioner Herron, Tom Parker, Jay Rodney, Steve Daniel, and Scott Nohavik. Kim Whitcock is normally a member. She was absent, excused absence. And Valerie took these minutes and did a very good job. There are 13 items here, and they're all written up in detail on the table. So I'm going to cut to just a few of the most interesting ones. The most interesting one by far was the fact that we had two members of the public there, Sue Mackey and Laura Tonkin. They proposed a potential idea for using one of the buildings on the East Campus, the former Leisure Time property, for a dog daycare operation. I kind of think of it as a dog rescue operation because dogs right now are being placed in foster homes and they need a central location. This has been, Laura has been operating such a operation for several years. They had not seen the buildings, and so what we did at the end of the meeting was let Scott Nohavik give them an immediate tour. So that they would have something concrete to visualize for this operation. Make long story short, we asked that they submit a written proposal because the district will have to explore land use, zoning, and permitting issues. I would like to link that up with the comment made, item 7 here on the report, made by Commissioner Emma Herron. She wanted to discuss she wanted the district to discuss the future plans of the property in general, not just for this possible dog program in response to the community need, but she pointed out that there are federal programs that offer funding, and the property is currently grandfathered into its current use. There's litigation pending between the city of Snoqualmie and King County. It's premature to start actually planning for other purposes, perhaps. But we are limited with that property. It's not at full usage. We cannot add any new structures, and we can't do extensive remodeling, and so forth. So, at any rate, this links up somewhat with the concept of what should we do with that property? And would a dog rescue, foster home, daycare operation be compatible with the overall planning for that property? So those things will all be discussed. Now, I would like to, one of the things that always intrigued me was the item 13, the healing garden. When we went out to the public and we did our open house and so forth, there was the idea of this healing garden right outside the cafeteria, and the foundation was selling bricks, theoretically, to be on the floor of that healing garden. Well, the brick sales didn't go all that swimmingly, and they had to cover the bricks and the healing garden over with grass for the open house and so forth, and then it's kind of been forgotten somewhat. But it's starting to live again. And I would ask Tom Parker, since he made a report on this, on behalf of the Facilities Committee to report the status of the Healing Garden. Good to go.
Visit two had a meeting with Dan Absher, owner of Absher Construction, who did the construction on our hospital, with a pitch to help with the establishment of the Healing Garden. The response that they got from Dan was very positive. First of all, he asked for any drawings that we had, and they are actually really basic schematics at this point. And he agreed to have his company provide more detailed construction drawings to the point that he would be able to have an estimate of the cost of the project. And then at that point, he would be able to assess whether or not he wanted to make further contributions. The sense of it from Ron Bennett and Eric Kaltenbacher was that Absher Construction would make some kind of contribution to the Healing Garden, but it is as of yet undefined. And we're now waiting for the Dan Absher to get back to us on what the cost will be and the provision of those drawings. So it's actually a very generous offer already in that he has provided those drawings at no cost.
Thank you, Tom. It'd be nice if we can get that open by summer so that people can, it's a lovely spot there right outside the cafeteria. You can go out in the sun.
I have a question. Do we know how many bricks have been purchased at this time?
I do not know at this time.
That's the kind of thing we might learn from the foundation. They're the ones that sold the bricks. But continuing, we made some signage improvements.
Commissioner Pollard.
Yes.
Yeah, you need to finish the report before going on.
This is what I'm doing. Yes. Exactly. I'm addressing the report.
Go ahead.
What did you think that's good?
Go ahead and finish the report.
I'm referring to item 9 on signage, and there were some improvements made on signage. I don't think we need to list each of those, but there were improvements made. Traffic safety, the new item came up, but apparently we have received complaints, including one from me, that coming out from the hospital on 99 and trying to turn left on the parkway is very problematic, not just with regards to the heavy traffic, but any traffic because of sight visibility with the roadside barrier. Tom was going to look into this, and I wonder, have you made any progress on that, Tom?
Just the initial conversation I've had with city personnel who said they were doing a citywide assessment of traffic safety issues and agreed to include this point in their assessment, and I haven't heard yet back on the results of that, Commissioner.
Thank you. I think I've taken enough time, Madam Chair, so that concludes my report.
Excellent notes, by the way.
Yeah, that's Valerie's. Those are Valerie's notes. So thank her.
Okay, now we will consider, and I want to remind the public that we are just considering some resolutions. We will not vote till after public comment. We're now going to consider Resolution 504-0416. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
Just so the public will know, we're talking about surplus equipment disposition.
Yes, we are.
May I ask a question regarding that? Or
You have a question regarding it?
Do we need to introduce the resolution first, I think? Is that correct?
No, we're just discussing it. That's all we're doing right now.
Okay, so the resolution will not be entertained tonight?
It will be entertained
Okay.
tonight.
Well, my question at some point is going to be, are we sure that we have done the best we can to make these items available to nonprofit organizations within the community before we consider surplusing them to anyone? I'm thinking of Encompass or all sorts of community organizations that might be able to use things like 2-drawer file cabinets, tables, etc.
Commissioner Pollard, I believe we've discussed this numerous times, and we've been assured numerous times by the staff that they have gone out to the public, they have requested, and they've let people know what's available. So
Well, and if I could interject, we can't even donate it until we surplus it. We have to surplus it first.
But once we surplus it, it tends to go quickly. And I just wonder, are we doing anything further along those lines?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
For equipment, we try to hold on to as much of the durable medical equipment through the health program. So that's our first stage. And then anything beyond that would come here for surplusing. And then we've done a number of things. We held a garage sale for the community for community benefit. And then we also will take items to places like Goodwill to keep that equipment in the community as a donation. And then after that, anything that Goodwill doesn't take really has to be tossed out. So that's got the trickle down of trying to find good and worthy uses for everything.
Are there any other questions?
As a board member, Madam
Are
Chair,
there any other questions? Let's let other people have an opportunity. Hearing none, you may proceed, Commissioner.
well, I think it would be nice for the community to know that we donated something to Encompass or to the health program. In other words, from this point, it just kind of disappears into the Netherlands, into the ether. And sure, I know you guys are doing a great job, but I think it'd be useful for the community to know where some of this is going. And, hospital donates such to Encompass or whoever it is, so that they can see that there's a good use for that surplus equipment. Just a suggestion on that score. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a question. Did you say that some of them were sold?
Some
Some of the surplus? Some of them?
We had a garage sale. It was back in August. And we did raise some funds for. I'm trying to remember. Steve, do you remember who we were raising? A bunch of help. Excuse me. Okay, but it was de minimis. So it was probably less than $500 was raised off of that. And then onto Goodwill, and then onto the scrappers.
Question. Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
When you say we held a garage sale, it would seem that would, if it wasn't done by the foundation, that would be an ideal project for the foundation, and then turn the money into if we're going to have future garage sales, why not involve the foundation?
If I'm correct, didn't we have a staff person coming here and asking us for some of that, and didn't we, for it wasn't there a purpose in what they did?
Right.
Yes.
I'm not against the foundation being involved at all. I'm just saying that it was a health program at the time, and it could,
the health program.
Yeah, and then if we were to do that again, we would come here with a request for surplus on that, and then it would be donated to the foundation, who would be the seller.
Okay, is there any more discussion? All right, now we will consider an audit by Moss Adams. On the agenda.
I believe that the finance committee had recommended by law, we talked about having to do a internal audit and have Moss Adams conduct the audit. We could get a separate auditor, but it would cost 4 or 5 times the amount that Moss Adams would potentially cost. I'm comfortable with myself. We have to do it by law. So I'm comfortable with the lesser amount at this point, 2,000 versus 7 to 10,000. If something comes out of it, you can rest assured that the state auditor's office will pick it up. And we'll have to pay that too.
And I think that the action item would be then just to direct Moss Adams to roll that forensic audit into its annual audit that it will conduct in May.
Right, and that's the cheapest way to go to accomplish what we need to do by law. Yes.
Point of information.
Did you get this at the meeting? You got that? I think you did. We handed it to you.
I'm not sure. But basically, also for the public, I know we get an annual audit from Moss Adams. What is this audit that is being required?
Forensic.
What does that mean?
Well, what they do is they go in there and do a random statistical sampling of all of the credit card receipts, and we can direct them to go back 2 years, 5 years. I don't think we should go back more than 3 years, but yeah, we can do that. We do a random sampling, find out, what, and then I could also ask a couple of questions about the particular credit card receipts I had to examine those that I had in mind, and make sure that we do it by law, and make sure we're transparent about what happened, whether it is off the line or not.
Commissioner Spikers, could we, I think, having this Moss Adams item here, it's not something we can move on without.
No.
Okay, so.
No, I don't.
So in the future, when you're ready to have them do the forensic audit, you will bring a resolution.
Sure, we'll bring a resolution, but this is something we wanted to talk about, to be transparent to our constituents and to everybody here. So
Okay, that probably
we are transparent.
Yeah. That probably should have been under financial, but that's okay.
I do think we have to have an action item tonight. We can do it by motion to direct staff to give Moss Adams the go-ahead to roll the forensic audit into the annual audit.
I would have no problem with that, but I mean, I think the board has to vote on it to make sure that, and I believe it is on the agenda for new business.
Right.
Do we have a resolution with that?
No, we can do that by motion,
By motion.
and then I'm assuming Steve, we're going to get the cost. Okay, so this is the most cost efficient alternative.
I would feel better if when we do get ready to vote on it, not tonight.
Yeah, it's tonight.
We need something written down. We need
it's going to be in the minutes as well. Yeah.
I guess I take a little bit of issue because we don't have something written down that we can read exactly what it says.
Is there a way we can table this till the next meeting?
Or can someone write it down quickly, just a quick something?
See, why don't you address what you need?
Moss Adams will be in our office on April 24th to do the audit process. At that time, they want to know, should they then do this as part of their normal audit, or should we agree to a separate audit called a refund procedures letter for $7,000 to $10,000 to start the process?
So that means the resolution is going to be for a forensic?
Here's what it is. Here's a piece of paper. This is exactly what was laid out in the proposal. As part of a normal audit, Moss Adams will sample CEO travel and credit card expenses to look for inappropriate expenses reimbursed by the district. The cost of this additional work on the audit will be approximately $2,000. We could also engage a national firm at a much higher cost, $7,000 to $10,000. So,
Okay, but that's not part of the resolution.
no, it's not. We don't have a resolution.
We can just make a motion.
I think I might.
It can be put in a motion, is that right?
Okay,
Yes.
we're doing a draft motion right now.
Just for.
Everybody and then we'll vote, yes. Later, after public comment.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So we talked about
Should we
twice.
make a motion
Well,
now?
I'm trying to read it, if everybody will give me an opportunity. The staff will be directed to request Moss Adams to include a forensic review in its audit at a cost of approximately $2,000.
How far will this go back?
It's up to their judgment. We'll probably just go back next year.
put that in that to the beginning of 2015.
Don't we need the words as part of their annual audit?
Oh,
Okay, so staff is directed to request Moss Adams as part of their
Annual audit.
annual audit.
Val's getting this down faster than me. To include a forensic review in its audit at a cost of no more than, forensic review that goes to 2015.
From getting to the
From January 2015. Okay.
Estimated
At an estimated cost of approximately $2,000. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I just curious, point of personal information, why isn't that part of the annual audit without it being broken out as a forensic audit?
It's not a big enough dollar amount to reach their level of materiality. The reason it does now is because when the auditors have their meeting, they will ask me, do I know of any potential fraud? I would say, well, there was an allegation made in a board meeting, and then they would look into it. So it's a whole $7,000. That does not meet their level of materiality unless there is a suspicion.
Okay, the next order of business is executive compensation survey proposals.
Point of order, don't we need to take a vote?
Not yet, not yet,
Not
not on the second, new business.
We're not voting on anything.
Oh,
until
that's
after
right.
public.
New business, right?
Yeah, got it.
Anybody want to address this? I think
I
finance
think
committee
we're-
probably
I think
should.
we have to table it, based on the discussion in the executive session. And, I think we'd like to have everyone come up with their, written proposal for compensation and then bring it to public meeting next month and vote on it. I don't see how else we're gonna be able to. I don't think anyone agrees.
Do you want to move to postpone this? to the
I
next meeting?
do, because I will agree with what the proposal that Mr. Pollard had indicated, that, we need to have some kind of emails, some kind of proposal. We've discussed it. I think that we have to have written proposals by each of the commissioners, put it to vote, each one of the proposals, and somehow be able to hash it out in open forum.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Paul.
we can't really do that as polling through exchanging emails. I would
Agreed.
suggest that what we do, and I agree with Mr. Spikers, that we each need to come up with our analysis of the situation, depending also on the information that the CFO has given us, excellent information, and then hold a special meeting prior to the next board meeting for the express purpose of going through those proposals, which we all would have received in writing and would have considered, and then we can meet and discuss them. So that would be my suggestion.
At this point, I think my suggestion is we postpone to the next meeting and we can leave the details for later so that we can get in contact with each other. I would like to suggest to the board that we make this a priority to deal with at the next meeting, that we don't need to
I agree.
let it go any further.
I agree, but it would only be fair since our interim CEO, Tom Parker, is assuming that position, and that's another 30 days for him to, I think that some of the things that were brought up is that Mr. Parker may move on to Mr. Parker's compensation. That might be something to consider, to be fair, since
So
that's another 30 days that he will be waiting for our results. So I don't know. That's my comment.
Emma, Commissioner Aaron, would you like to make a proposal or put that up for a vote? That, if I'm hearing you correctly, that we bring him up immediately
to the salary of the previous CEO, and then meet and make suggestions and can change it at the next meeting if we want to make some adjustments.
Yes.
Is there a, we'll move it after, after public comment. Okay. Alrighty, next is public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Does anybody like to make public comment?
Mostly I have a question. Carol Peters, football. Talking about CEO, whatever you might call it. What are you doing in there for a hospital administrator? Is this going to be a joint position? Is it something you're still talking about? Is there anything you can let the public know at this point on the two positions becoming one? Or what's your thinking?
At this point, Tom Parker is working as the superintendent. Maybe Tom can address about the COO. Right now, we do not have anybody in that position.
I'm currently working in both roles.
Yeah. Is there any other public comment?
Peters and Peters. The first time I can say, I thought that was an excellent report. The superintendent, long time, 36 Truro, 4 of those are items. I was curious how much we save if we move it, if the office is moved into the hospital. And thirdly, in order for us to make it easier, just a suggestion. Once you decide what these temporary salary needs, because it's still in, it can be record that you got a position, and then you took over instead of making do something now and then doing something later. Just a suggestion.
Just we will eventually save over $4,000 a month by moving back into just for that answer.
Is there any more public comment? Hearing none, we will move on to our resolutions. First resolution to be approved will be Resolution 504-0416, the surplus equipment. Does anyone care to move approval
I
of that?
move approval of the resolution 504-0416.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? We will now take a vote. The motion is approved, or we will now take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have approved resolution number 504-0416, surplus equipment unanimously. Okay, Moss Adams. Staff is directed, this is what we're voting on. Staff is directed to request Moss Adams as part of their annual audit to include a forensic review from January 2014 as in 15, and that's what it says in front of me, I'm sorry, as an estimated cost for approximately $2,000.
I make the motion to approve that motion.
All those in favor? Oh, discussion.
Second.
Any discussion? Yeah, we have a second. Hearing no further discussion, we will move for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Unanimous. Okay. Executive salary, we are waiting. Do we have a resolution for that?
Motion.
A motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I make a motion to bring interim CEO Tom Parker's compensation to previous CEO's salary for 30 days until the next public board meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'd second.
Is there any discussion?
I would just like to, not limited to 30 days, but just to say to bring his salary up to what was paid to the previous CEO until such time as the board changes it, which may be 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever. And then the board can decide if that would be retroactive, where he would not be injured. But I think the 30-day limitation might be.
So you're amending my motion?
Is there any amendment?
That's not an objection.
Is there any objection to this amendment?
I don't think so. I don't want him to start out with something and then in 50 days he loses 10 days or 15 days of the additional. It makes sense to just to a time that the board makes the change or votes. I believe
Is there any other discussion? I have something to say. I don't think we need to hang him out there to wait in the wind. And I think board needs to get together and decide within the next 30 days.
That should be mandatory.
Yeah, it should be.
But it doesn't need to be in the motion.
Okay, are we ready for a vote?
Well,
I can just say it.
Second to the amendment.
The amendment is to strike the 30 days and to insert some other language.
Insert until the board
Did the amendment?
adjusts his salary
Okay, pardon me.
appropriately.
Emma, may I get clarification? Did you have 30 days on what you?
Yes, because we were discussing it earlier that we were gonna have another for the next public meeting. And that's the reason I have that 30 days, but if the rest of the commissioners prefer until we make the decision.
So this is until?
Yeah.
Spike has a friendly and
Yes.
It just until the
Pardon
board.
Pardon me, I can. Until such time as the board adjusts his salary, that would be the amendment.
I agree.
Okay, who moves it?
I move.
And who's gonna second?
I second it.
All right. Is there discussion now? No further discussion, and we'll take the vote. All those in favor? Huh? On the amendment. So it's amended to read the 30 day,
Until the board makes a change.
until the vote. Okay. All right, is there any discussion on the amendment? With no discussion, we will move to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And opposite. Okay, so now we take the motion with the amendment. Can you pass down your amendment or your motion?
Okay, without the amendments.
So we can just have it. This is so we can get this all accurate. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Okay. And then once we have this written, we will vote on the
Yes.
thing. This is what. We'll write out. Okay. Emma makes Commissioner Herring makes the motion that we make, that we bring interim CEO Tom Parker's compensation to the previous CEO salary until such time as the board adjusts his salary. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there
So there's a
any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Yes. Okay. Other bits.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. I really have to get out of here.
Okay. Is anybody else have any other business?
No, it's not debatable.
Is there a second?
A second to what?
Adjourning.
Yes.
I second.
All right.
All those in favor
Thank
say
you.
aye. Aye. Those that oppose? We are adjourned.
Hey, Nick.